Oh, welcome back to the Matrix. You're not just in the Matrix, you are the Matrix. How's it feel, Neo? And today we got ourselves a banger daily market news analysis. Make sure you guys are spamming that like button, hitting that share so other people can spam that like button. All right, let's get into it, y'all. It is January 13th, 2026. And what we can see is this is a clear higher high from this accumulation. We've been talking a lot about this being the selling climax of no sound, just music. Okay, thank you. Testing. Is that just TikTok? Hold up. Why did it do that? Add audio. Test. All right, are we good? I don't know why I did that. That was weird. Super weird. We should be good now. Good now. Okay, cool. I don't know why I did that. My bad. I was messing with the settings. We were doing some things here. But, all right, we've been talking a lot about this being the selling climax, doing some accumulation. We talked about a lot about yesterday. We have flipped bullish for the first time since back in... we haven't flipped bullish since back in April of 2025. This is the first time that we have done that. And this is significant too, right? So, you know, somebody was on here yesterday talking about, oh, we haven't gotten all four of them. Well, we got all four of them as of tomorrow. As of the next 5-hour candle, we're going to have all four of them. We have real volume coming in here, you can see. And this is a higher high. This is higher than we've cleared all of the levels of resistance. So to me, you know, a lot of people are going to suspect that this isn't a real move. I don't think so. I don't think that that is the case. Like, I think that this is a real move that's going on. Are we live on YouTube? Are we good on YouTube? Let me make sure that... Hold up. Did I not press the button? Let me just make sure before we go any further. I'm all discombobulated today, man. It looks like we're live. Yeah. Okay, we're good. I'm not seeing the chat, though. Why is the chat not showing up on... That's weird. Okay, so I'm going to have to do it like this then. All right, I see you guys. Cool. All right, I see you on my phone. All right, YouTube is fine. Appreciate that. Sound is good here. Okay. What's up, John Boy? YouTube is good. All right, appreciate you guys. All right. I think that this is a real move. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to go off to Neverland tomorrow and we're just going to put in a new all-time high tomorrow. I'm not saying that, but this to me is a real move. We've been talking a lot about this, right? And like, here's why I think it's a real move. Like, reason number one, here's the last time we did this. It took, again, 53 days before we broke out of here. From the selling climax to the point of breaking out, we're sitting at 54 days. So literally almost identical structure over here. Point number two is the Russell is breaking out into price discovery. We've been talking a lot about that. This is the first time that Bitcoin has flipped completely bullish after being bearish since in April. The time before that was back in September of 2024. The time before that was September of 2023. And the time before that was January of 2023. Okay? So real deal significance taking place. I wonder if there's... Yeah. So we haven't had this in a long time. Since April of 2025. We haven't flipped to this posture here. So this is a real move, in my opinion. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to get to an all-time high, and I'm going to be cautious, you know, around the 618.5 Fibonacci retracement, somewhere between 103 and 108, as high as 112. To me, would be like, you know, these would be cautionary zones. You know, even if we were going to break out of there, I think that's these would be cautionary zones. But if we start getting above the 702, I think that this is, you know, almost a V bottom structure out of here. We're seeing XMR just continually to rip day after day after day. You know, same exact chart. We talked a lot about like this chart. This chart has the same as silver. Like this is the same chart as silver too. Same exact chart. Like literally. This is why, you know, you guys think I'm over here cherry picking and stuff. It's like, this is, you know, Wyckoff is Wyckoff. It doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter the, let's put this on the 2 week here. It doesn't matter the time frame. Wyckoff is Wyckoff. Look at this. Like that's the exact same setup. On the top is Monero. On the bottom is silver, and you can see the exact same like big breakout, breakout, markdown, accumulation, markdown, accumulation, double top on the prior all-time high, double top on the prior all-time high, markdown, reaccumulation, markdown, reaccumulation, sign of strength back test, sign of strength back test, big breakout into price discovery, big breakout into price discovery. I think a lot of altcoins have this exact same setup, and the thing that we've been talking about nonstop here, the thing that is different this time that has not taken place is the Russell has not went into price discovery. In 2017, it went into price discovery and distribution. In 2021, it went into price discovery and distribution. That is the one thing that has not taken place this time around that has happened every single time in the other bull runs. So, like, what does that mean? Does that mean, like, pack it up, see you in 4 years? I guess we'll be down until October. That's what I'm hearing everywhere. That's what I'm hearing everywhere. Like, I laughed at it yesterday. I put it out yesterday. Like, everyone was wrong in 2025. So what makes you think that everyone's going to be right in 2026? What makes you think everyone's going to be right in 2026 now? We're going to go to 88K CME gap. Sure. That's on the board, but again, I think that this is the fact that Bitcoin, this is an underrated factor here. Okay, so I didn't even notice this. When you go on the 3-day, the only thing that happened is we went to the 200 moving average here and found it as support, and big move off of it, cross to the upside. I would be curious, is there a time, you know, I get if you want to say that we're doing this, sure, like that's the caution, but I think that we're going to get a full retrace. I think we're going to get a full retrace here, just like we did over there, minimum. But this is a real move. I'd be curious to see. I want to see the MACD. See, the RSI is about to cross to the upside on the weekly chart on Bitcoin. That's a big deal. Like, people would say I'm like because I talk a lot about the 5-hour chart because I think it does the best job of projecting what we're going to do in the next, few months. And people say, that I spend too much time on the 5-hour chart, but even on the weekly, like, we got all the way down to 31. And again, what was the base of the bottom in 2021 was about 30. We got as low as 23, but the base of the bottom was 30. Same thing in 2019 bottom was at 24. 2014 bottom was at 30. So we got about where we need to get to on the weekly with a weekly cross to the upside. So, like, let's go back and see, when do you get down to, call it 35 and then get across to the upside? Like, how does that look? January of 2023. That's probably the best time to have bought in Bitcoin in the last 4 years. January of 2023, cross to the upside. Bitcoin was chilling at 17K. Never went lower. Okay, so what about over here? Cross to the upside. Yeah, pretty damn good price. Bitcoin was chilling at 4K. That was pretty much it. We'll count this one, 35. This is the C19 crash. It was already out of there. It never went lower. So this is a big time frame here. And then the other one was right here. Weekly down into the 20s, cross to the upside. We did have a spring over here. I guess that's your only example. It didn't technically go lower. The bottom was already in, though, by the time that we got the cross. We just had more chopping sideways action on the 200 moving average, which I don't think we're on the 200 here on the weekly. We're not. We're nowhere close to the 200. We're bouncing off the 100. Is there times when that happened? Not really. Okay. So, yeah, that's a big deal. Let me look at the... Let me get rid of this. Let me make this a little bit smaller here. I want to check out the MACD. And, like, let's go through this history, because we're looking at the weekly chart here. Weekly chart. Okay, so not a lot of data. We were completely red over here. By the time we flipped green, after being red, there was still another push down here. But when you got deep into it, flip green, that was already it. Same thing here. Deep into the red, flip green. I wonder when that is. Yeah, you had another push down. Deep in the red, flip green. That's a bearish divergence right there, though. So that's in 2021, of course. See, this doesn't look the same. A lot of people are comparing this to 2021, and it doesn't look the same at all. How deep did we get here? 5,000? Like, that's the deepest that we've been since the 2022 bottom. It was July of 2022 when it flipped green. Like, we're about to flip here. It's about to cross and flip on the weekly. On the weekly. Like, you can see the steam being lost here. Let's check out the monthly. We got a green month going on right now. Yeah, I think people just have recency bias. Sup. He says, I just took out my first milli from Solnic staking. Restaking it now. Let's go. Good evening, Ski. How's Solnic doing? Solnic's doing great. We've held up pretty good compared to a lot of the market. Five coins you will be buying for 10 years. Bitcoin, Solana, Solnic, H-bar, probably VeChain. VeChain or Link. There's like 7. What's a CME? It's a I forget what the actual definition is, but it's basically where there's trading that happened when the markets weren't open and it creates a gap. I forget what the actual definition. There's a word. Yeah, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. That's what it stands for. There you go. Chicago Mercantile Exchange. All right, let's read some of the comments on TikTok. Only in crypto. When a macro bear flag is bullish, love it. Only in crypto. Disbelief everywhere. This is what's called disbelief. Tether dominance lower low. Another leg higher with it actually into alts. Yeah, like again, the thing that's different. What is different this time that has not happened yet that happened in 2017 and in 2021? I say this every day I come on here. It is the Russell. The Russell is the thing that is different. Is it different or is it delayed? Because it doesn't look any different to me when I look at this from 2021. This fractal is over here from the C19 crash into the breakout. So does it look different? Is it different or do we have the timing wrong? Because candle for candle for candle, pullback for pullback, breakout for breakout for breakout for breakout for pullback for breakout for big giant crash, it has been trading the same. And I even predicted this last week. I said this is about the time. I said we should expect, because we were still pulling back, I said around the 7th, if it's following this, we should expect a pivot around the 7th. And by about the 15th, we should expect a new all-time high for the Russell. Okay, what happened? We pivoted on the 2nd and made a new all-time high already. 261. New all-time high. To me, this is confirmation that we're breaking into price discovery. Okay, so what happened in 2021 in price discovery? Okay, so the first thing that happened was gold tops in August of 2020. Then November of 20, it makes a new all-time high. From November 20 to the buying climax of the distribution of the Russell. Who said it yesterday? Said it best. Money flows into markets from distribution of other markets. I don't know how he worded it. If you're watching, say it again how you said it yesterday, because it's perfect. But the distribution of the Russell was the entire rally. Not like correlated. The whole daggone rally. The whole thing.
Gay.
That's the wrong one. The whole rally. All right? The whole daggone thing. So let's look at it on the daily. And you can see. So why do I keep every single day I'm talking about the Russell? Because the Russell is the whole thing. All right, gold makes a new all-time high. The total 3, all of the altcoins are bear market lows. By the time, so this is the all-time high actually right here. Bear market lows. A nice rally from the all-time high of the Russell to the buying climax. A decent rally in the total 3. Not an all-time high though, but a decent rally. But let's look. From the buying climax to the UTAD, which is the top of distribution, that was the whole run. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That was the whole run. Okay, so let's fast forward. What has not happened that happened in 2021, that happened in 2017? The Russell has not broken into price discovery and distribution, but it's doing it right now. We're at an all-time high. We have been following this candle for candle for candle for candle. Pullback for pullback. Breakout for breakout. Breakout. Candle for candle, it's been following this from 2021. And we have finally broken into a new all-time high. All right, so, you know, that's what we need. We need the Russell to go into price discovery. Thank you for the 27.99 CA, you savage, brother. I appreciate you, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Says, thank you for all that you do, you savage. Damn, silver just hit 90. That's crazy. It's probably going to hit 107, to be honest. The liquidity from crypto comes from the bigger assets like stock. Yeah. How did you say it yesterday? You said it perfectly. You articulated perfectly what I've been trying to say. Tether dominance going lower. Like I said, guys, I think that this is a real move. Listen, I'm not calling for an all-time high. I'm not saying we're about to break out into the Lambos, but what I'm saying is the setup is there. There's going to be caution to be taken around 103 to 112. We need to see, like, you know, there's things to be concerned. It's not like it's just we're out of the woods here and all this and that. However, again, the highest volume in 13 months. That is a real move. I would be curious. Did we get any volume to save us? The highest for 13? No, we did not. So a lot of people are saying that this move is this move. And I think that that's the minimum. If we get rejected off the 200, you know, I think that that would be concerning. But this volume looks real. Then you look on the 5-hour chart. This is the first time we have flipped bullish since April of 2025, fully. There was somebody in my comments yesterday talking about like, oh, but it's not all the way. Well, it is today. It is today. How much time from the beginning of distribution and the end of the Russell, aka how long was the subsequential rally in crypto simultaneously? Okay, so now you guys are asking the right question. So let's break it down. Listen, guys, I think that this is a real move, especially because we made a new high here. Flip bullish and put in a higher high. That's a real move with the volume to back it up. It doesn't mean we're going to V-bottom and make a new all-time high tomorrow. Doesn't mean that. It means that we're headed in the right track and we have real signs that there's really smoke behind the fire, that XMR is absolutely ripping. All right. Let's pull up the Russell. How much time between the beginning of distribution and the end of the Russell? Okay, that was the whole rally. I have it boxed. So the beginning is what's called the buying climax. All right. Oh, damn it. Let me save this. The beginning of distribution is what's called the buying climax. Okay? And then you get a UT, typically goes higher than the buying climax. And then sometimes you get a UTAD, which is what we're getting in gold right now, in my opinion. When it occurred in 2021. Yes, okay. Gold, in my opinion, is working on the UTAD. It's a the buying climax of distribution, aka a topping structure, is the climax of buying. Typically, you will see the highest volume here, and you will also see on the RSI, it will typically be the hottest, right? And you start to see bearish divergences. Typically, the RSI is going to be going down as the price is going up. Typically, the volume is going to be going down as the price is going up. That is bearish divergences. And typically, textbook, you get higher highs. So buying climax, UT goes higher, UTAD goes even higher than that. So let's go back. This is that. This is your buying. If I were to mark it out for you, right? This is your BC right there. This is your UT right there. And then this is your UTAD right here. So I'm marking out how the distribution of the Russell played out, and then we can cross-reference this too. So let's get rid of the MACD. But look at the RSI is going down. Volume is going down. This is textbook distribution. All right. Buying climax, UT, UTAD. Buying climax, UT, UTAD. All right. So how long from the buying climax? The question is, how long from the buying climax? Let me read the question exactly how he wrote it. How much time between the beginning of distribution, which is the buying climax, and the end for Russell? Okay. It was the whole run, but we'll just do it like this. It was March of 2021 through November of 2021. And that might sound familiar to you, and it should be. Because here's the total 3. Buying climax, right here. I have it circled. UTAD. Right here. That was the tippity top of the cryptocurrency market, and the time when it broke out was the buying climax. Like the same exact date. All right? Same time frame here. The same exact time. The buying climax was when crypto broke out. The UTAD was the absolute top. Good fractal from January 2023. On what asset? People will buy silver at 107. They 100% will. Can you look at ICP? I got you. We going to go to CME gap at 88K? Sure. Eventually. But like, not like, listen, this is flip bullish. This is real at this point, right? So people are going to be caught in bias, and I'm not saying we're not going to have red days or red hours. We certainly will. We certainly will. However, this is the first time we flipped completely bullish since April of 2025. All right? So, like, here's how that played out. It wasn't until you broke into a new high before you pulled anything back. And you didn't fill out any CME gaps that were left over here, because there was one. You didn't fill that out until like 6 months later. So sure. On Bitcoin. So January 23. He's saying pull a fractal until how long? Looks toppy. In what world? Does the highest volume in 13 months? Sure. You want to tell me that this looks toppy? Sure. That's buying climax, upthrust, UTAD. Sure. But then you have a markdown and you have a selling climax. In fact, we've already done this. Here's a fractal of what you're saying looks toppy. From over here, people talk their bags. It looks toppy. Okay, sure. Sure, it looks toppy. It looks exactly like what we did in April. And it's the same number of days. That's what it looks like. That's the guy that was bearish yesterday? Yeah.
Why are you gay?
Are you betting anything on this? Sure. Am I betting anything on this? Yeah. I sure am. People sideline want lowers 100%. 100%. That's exactly what it is. – 100%. That's what it is. Am I betting anything on this? He says. I made a bet. Sure. I made a bet. Well, that's not even the full one. Am I betting anything? Sure. I made a bet. Long ETH at $3,083. What about a ST or Spring? It's very possible. That's, listen, transparency. I don't know. I don't know how there are many. Okay, let's back up here. There are different bottoming structures that behave. It's a bottoming structure is a secondary test and a spring, 100%. We saw that's exactly how it behaved last time. We got a selling climax, a slightly lower secondary test, a slightly lower spring. That's a textbook bottoming structure. All right. This is a reaccumulation. Same thing though. Lower low, lower low, lower low, higher low, breakout. This is a reaccumulation pattern. And then you have your, same thing with FTX was a selling climax, a secondary test. That is pretty common, but, and then there's Ethereum tells us an example of like, you just get your selling climax and then that's it. So the example of that is, right here in 2022, Ethereum was contrast to Bitcoin where, Bitcoin made a new low after June where Ethereum did not. Selling climax, high amounts of volume. That was it. Just higher lows, higher highs from that point on. We never went lower, ever. Never went lower again. So listen, I don't know if we're going to get I'm open to the idea of us getting a secondary test and a spring. I think it's on the board. And it's also on the board that we do something like this. Like we're going to see. But what I'm thinking, though, right now as it stands, this is a real move that's taking place out of Bitcoin. You know, you don't typically get a lot of volume come through and you flip bullish on the 5-hour chart and put in a new high. That's not a typical structure of then going to, you know, if you look at it like this is what I'm thinking. Like, this is distribution back in January of 2025, right? You have your buying climax, your up thrust, and then you lose the 200 and you lose it violently. Okay? So let's see how this behaved. And you were getting rejected on the 100 all the way down. Now, contrary, that same thing happened here. You get distribution, buying climax, up thrust, UTAD. Let's label it here. Okay, you get your buying climax, your up thrust, your UTAD, textbook distribution. Same thing over here. Once you lose your 200, you lose it violently. And that's what happened. We lost the 200 and then we lost it violently. Now, this was actually more violent, though, than over here back in April. Well, technically in February we were dropping. Because when you see this, Bitcoin... And this is why the nuance of the structure could be different, where, you know, you could paint the picture of like, why would you not get a spring? Why would you not get a secondary test? And it's because of the balance in the market. Now, I'm not predicting this because truthfully, I don't know how the ending of it's going to be. There's lots of scenarios where you get a spring. There's lots of scenarios where you don't, right? There's lots of scenarios where it's just a V bottom. Okay, so I don't know how the bottoming is going to end itself, but to me, this is certainly a structure of doing that. Okay, now, here's the case, though, that you can make very easily, in my opinion. This was getting rejected on the 100, so it was pretty violent, but it was more of a gruel its way down, where... When we lost the 200 here, it was getting rejected off the 50 and the 20 all the way down. So this was way more violent than over here. Way more violent. Okay? And then what happens is you already have your selling climax and your secondary test, and you make a big plunge to the 200 moving average and you get rejected. The rejection causes the spring. Okay, well, I could argue that the same structure took place, but because this crash was more violent, you did not get a secondary test or a spring, but you had your big violent selling climax. You push to the 200. Same thing. You push to the blue 200 moving average here, and that's a big rejection. Push to the 200, big rejection. The rejection is what caused the spring. You did not put in a new high. Again, you didn't have a new high that came in after the rejection. That's already happened. So you have your rejection. You came down. You could say that this is your LPS rather than a secondary test or a spring. You could call this easily your LPS. You could just say that this was a very violent spring. This is your secondary test. This is an LPS. Same thing, though. You come up to the 200, big rejection to the LPS, perhaps, rather than the spring. And then you break above it and backtest the 200. Same thing happens over here after your spring. You break above the 200, the dark blue, and then you backtest it. Okay, and then the next thing that happens is you flip bullish. So the red crosses on top of the 200. The yellow crosses on top of the 200. And then right before the light blue crosses, this is full bullish posture right here. You actually break out before then because this is a lagging indicator. But we've already flipped fully bullish. And we put in a new high with volume. Like the volume is high. The volume is real. Look at this volume. It's higher than any of this. That tells me that this is a real move, especially because it's a new all-time high. Well, not a new all-time high, but it's a yearly high. It's a, we haven't been, yeah, it's a yearly high. And we haven't been 95K since November was the last time. Yeah. So, you know, there's going to be lots of resistance in here at the 0.5, at the 200. There's going to be lots of resistance. So it's not like, you know, it's going to be a straight line battle or anything like that. But you can definitely make a strong case that, hey, this is your LPS. This was your break, your bust to the 200 and then rejection. But instead of making a spring, it did your LPS version. And then you breakout back test, flip bullish, breakout. Breakout back test of the 200, and then you flip bullish. 200 on top of the 100 on top of the 50 on top of the 20. Now the 20 will be on the next 5-hour candle. The 20 is going to cross, and that's going to be fully bullish. Even if it crashes, it's still going to cross. At this point, it's too close. So, big deal. When was the last time you bought Solnic? Yesterday. I've been buying on Coinbase. I also bought with my 6 low. I bought $100 the other day. I've been buying almost every day. Ignore and continue. Yeah. If you're buying base, it's because it's my liquidity pool. So that's what it's telling you. Do you use RSI? I do use RSI. What's LPS? Last point of support. I'll show you some schematics on how a bottoming structure looks like. I'll show you a couple different examples. This is what we got in April right here. So this was our February. We had the selling climax. Then you had a secondary test that goes lower. And then you have a spring that goes lower than the secondary test. So let me show you that. It's literally the same structure that we had. Selling climax, secondary test, spring. Okay. Let me show. So selling climax, secondary test, spring. This is a common bottoming structure, but it's not the only one. Another one is your LPS, which looks like this. It's phase C. So here's the differences. Here's the nuances. Okay, so phase C with the spring variation, it goes lower than the secondary test and the selling climax. That's a common bottoming structure. Not always, though, but it is common. But the other common way is phase C is your LPS version, which is not lower than the selling climax, which is not lower than the secondary test. These are equally as common. And you can make the argument that Bitcoin, that's what it's doing. It's a violent selling climax. So the secondary test, you could say, is here, did not go lower. And then you could say that this is the LPS. This looks like a typical LPS, actually. This looks more typical, but this could have we could have expected this to go lower, and it didn't. And I think that's because the 1010 liquidation was so violent. But either way, like, this is the first time we flipped bullish since April. And at the time before that was September of 24. The time before that was October of 23. So it doesn't do it every day, right? It happens like maybe once a year. You flip from bearish to bullish. We're doing it right now. And then we look back, like what happened? When you flip from bearish to bullish, it was a breakout. When you flip from bearish to bullish, it was a breakout. When you flip from bearish to bullish, it was a breakout. Okay? This is a real move in my opinion, guys. Time will tell. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, time will tell. But we haven't seen this in over a year. All right. Real temporary move. People talk their bags. Real talking of your bags. People talk their bags. People talk their bags. That's what that is. People were that's what happens. Daily candle close above 94 bullish. I agree. How's Bitcoin dominance looking? We'll take a look. You sure guys are spamming that like button. How about the head and shoulders forming on the daily? I don't see a head and shoulders forming on the daily. Like, what are you saying here? This is your shoulders. This is your head. I'm not a patterns trader. Like, I know that people do that. To me, patterns, I will never make a decision based off of patterns. Never. Because they're the most invalidation, and especially head and shoulders is, to me, personally, it's the lowest level. I consider, I'm not trying to talk down on anybody or anything like that. But personally, how I view things, and I've been wrong before, but how I view things, patterns is at the bottom of analysis as far as like accuracy of what to project. And then even within the patterns, I view head and shoulders at the lowest level. And the reason that I think that is because I don't see a head and shoulders either way. I don't see a head and shoulders here forming anyways. But unless you're saying that we're working on the head now, maybe. But the reason that I put head and shoulders at the bottom of what I already consider at the bottom is because when people learn patterns, the first one that they learn is head and shoulders. And so it's the most like retail spotted pattern, which to me, patterns is the most retail thing. Like BlackRock isn't out here trading head and shoulders and bull flag, bear flag. Now, what I do use patterns for is like if I'm seeing something in Wyckoff, if I'm seeing something in Elliott Wave, we see volume, and then it's like, well, oh, and there's a head and shoulders. That's how I personally use it. I'm not trying to convince anyone how to do it one way or the other, but that's how I view patterns. It's like, oh, but I will never make a decision based off of patterns because there's too many exceptions. There's too many variations. There's too many invalidations, especially head and shoulders is the most invalidated of them all. That's my thoughts on that. So the past year has been a bear market. Sure. I mean, that was the beard bet. What's that mean? What does what mean? Fa! Working on the right shoulder if you zoom out, but yeah. True. That's just my personal thoughts. Again, if you have success, and what I always say too, like if you have success doing something, for the love of God, just keep doing that. So don't listen to me if you have success trading patterns, like, hey, more power to you. because I'm of the mindset that a big trap that I think that people fall into is they get so fixated on like shiny object syndrome, right? Where it's like, oh, you have patterns, or oh, you have Elliott wave, or oh, you have volume trading, you have divergences, you have like there's just so much nuances in all of this stuff. And when people go from thing to thing to thing to thing, they never really master one thing. And I am a big believer of, you fear the man that has practiced one kick 10,000 times versus the man that's practiced 10,000 different kicks. So if you're having success with that, then by all means, like, don't let me sway you. But I'm just telling you my mindset, my thought process on how I analyze the market. And that's why I view it that way and I weight it that way. Hopefully that makes sense. Solnick to 2 cents. Solnick to $2. Solnick to $5.89. Solnick already went to $8, by the way. That happened. Like, for real. That happened. ADA has the same setup as silver. Like, we talked about that a lot. That's all I really have to say about that. Can you go over what Bitcoin will do? I think Bitcoin is going to test the 200, and then we're going to see. That's what I think. We could get rejected and put in a higher low from the 100. That's probably pretty common to do. Like, we're barreling straight to the 100 moving average. Probably going to get rejected. It's pretty common to get, like, that's generally a pretty high level of resistance. But I think we'll probably put in a higher low. We're starting to, we've had one cross. So on the daily, so how I view the moving averages is like this. So let's start with the 5 hour. 5 hour, it's easy because, all right, let me show you bearish and then I'll show you bullish. So when the 200 is on top of the 100, is on top of the 50, is on top of the 20, that is the most bearish posture. Okay. And then you're basically going to be in a downtrend until you flip it. And generally it takes 2 or 3 tests before you can flip it, right? And we see this, right? So you go up and you test the 200 and you reject. You test the 200 and you reject. You test the 200 and you reject, right? So the 200 is often, huge levels of resistance. And then when you flip it the other way, I'll give you a more clear example. But when the 20, the red line, is on top of the yellow line, is on top of the light blue, is on top of the dark blue. That's my colors, the way that I have it set up. But it's the 20 on top of the 50, on top of the 100, on top of the 200. That's the most bullish posture. And this is the most, we have not been in this posture since April of 2025. And I rank them like so, too. So there's 6 possible crosses. And so, like, I will generally take a spot look, like on the 4-hour chart, 5-hour chart, daily chart, whatever, 1-hour chart, 30-minute chart, whatever. And if you're looking on that time frame, out of 6, you can kind of rank it on how bullish it is, how bearish it is. Now, these are lagging indicators. So that's why I like the projecting of, like, hey, when they are going to cross, which is what we were doing the other day. But it's out of 6. So example, this was 6 out of 6 bearish. And then you have one cross. So the red crosses the yellow. That is now 1 out of 6, or 1 out of 6 bullish, right? And then you get another cross. That's 2 out of 6 bullish, right? And then you get your third cross. That's 3 out of 6 bullish. Okay? And then when the yellow crosses the light blue, that's now 4 out of 6 bullish. And then when the yellow crosses the dark blue, that's now 5 out of 6 bullish. And then when the dark blue, or the light blue crosses the dark blue, that's 6 out of 6 bullish. So on the 5-hour time frame, which to me projects what's going to happen for the next weeks, months, we are 6 out of 6 bullish posture. And to me, the 5-hour time frame is a big deal. That's not like the 5-minute. It's not the 1 minute. 5-hour, that's a bigger time frame. But on the, on the daily though, we're only 1 out of 6 bullish. So we still have some work to do on the daily. But on the 5-hour, we are 6 out of 6 bullish. On the daily, we're 1 out of 6 bullish. On the 3-day, we are probably neutral, actually. Yeah, because this is cross bearish 1, 2, 3. But these are all bullish still, the yellow. So it's 3 out of 6 bullish, but it's about to cross to the second one unless we get a pretty big move back to 103. So it's pretty neutral on the 3-day, and we're finding support off of the 200 moving average, which is often a key level that you do find support at in even bear markets. And on the weekly, we're still all the way bullish on the weekly chart, 6 out of 6 bullish, and we're finding support off the 100. So that's how I kind of just like a snapshot of like, hey, like this is how I view it. It would take 106 to get right shoulder. I'm not a you're asking the wrong guy. That's not what I do. I do Wyckoff. Are you a super cycle guy or bear market guy? I am neither. I'm just looking at the posture. I think that we've done Wyckoff accumulation. This is the first time since April that we have flip bullish. Right? So okay, let's go back through the history because it doesn't happen a lot. It only happens like once a year or so. When you flip from bearish to bullish, April was the last time you flipped from bearish to bullish. And this is what happened. You had a big breakout and a new all-time high. September of 24, we flipped from bearish to bullish, and same thing. October of 23, you flip from bearish to bullish, same thing. And then January, you flip from bearish to bullish. So it doesn't happen a lot. It happens like once a year or so. And I'm a Wyckoff guy, so none of what I'm analyzing is saying that we're in a bear market. None of what I'm analyzing is saying that we're in a super cycle. I'm looking at Wyckoff accumulation, volume, and I think that, I'm looking at the Russell. That's where my analysis is coming from, is the Russell. Signals risk on assets. And the one thing that's different this time that has not taken place this time, that happened in 2021, that has not happened yet, is the Russell broke out into price discovery and then went into distribution. That's when the whole fun times happen. It wasn't a second before the Russell makes a new all-time high. And this fractal right here is from 2021. Okay, I'll show you the time frame. The breakout into distribution. For the C19 crash, every high, every pullback, every higher high, every higher low, that's what this white line is. And we have been following the Russell candle for candle. And I even said, like a week ago, we should expect a pivot around the 7th, and we should expect a new all-time high around the 15th if we're continuing to follow this, and that's what we got. So to me, that confirms that we're continuing to follow this. And the buying climax through the UTAD, not only was that correlated to crypto, that was the whole entire run. It was not until the Russell makes a new all-time high to the buying climax that anything was dead. Look at this. This is the total 3. All-time high, I have circled. Total 3 is everything that is not Bitcoin and Ethereum, basically all your altcoins, right? Let's line this up here. So here's the all-time high on the Russell. And if I zoom out, this is dead. Crypto's dead. All-time high, crypto is dead. Okay? All-time high through the buying climax, you can see nice little rally. Nothing substantial though. Buying climax through the UTAD, that was the whole run. That's when it broke out, was the buying climax. The UTAD, the very tippity-dippity top of the Russell, was the tippity-dippity top of cryptocurrency. Not a second higher. That was the end of it. So this is my problem when people are calling for bear markets. It's like you are putting, in my opinion, you're putting the goose before the gander. You're putting the horse before the carriage. Okay? You're putting the wrong thing first. And so the thing that happened in 2017, the thing that happened in 2021 that has not yet to take place is the Russell has not broken out into a new all-time high and went into price discovery. But in my opinion, we have the trajectory to do, and we are having the trajectory to do that. What's the date on the future buying climax? If we're going to follow this fractal, it would be March of 26. It would be March of 26. My price targets for VeChain have not dropped huge. Says you the man, bro. Appreciate you. All right, guys. It's been a good live stream. Sorry I'm late today. Dude, I'm late. I'm tired of apologizing for being late every single day. I'm late every single day, y'all. But I was really actually late today. But that's going to be it for this time, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Try to get back on a good schedule. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I will never message you first. Those are scammers. For the love of God, do not get scammed. I'm not going to message you and say, hey, how's your trading going? I'm not going to ask you to send me money. Any of the following. All right? Peace, love, prosperity. God first. God bless.